Hello, everyone. I am so excited to guide you through today's TOEFL reading lesson. We are focusing on a very important task called Complete the Words. This question type is all about understanding the flow of a paragraph, spotting key details, and using the surrounding context to figure out missing letters. By the end of this session, you will feel much more confident in tracking the main ideas and choosing the right words to complete any passage. Let's jump right in and master these skills together. If you want to keep improving your score, make sure to subscribe to my TOEFL for more expert strategies and practice. Let's stay focused and continue this learning journey together. Before we dive into the missing letters, let's look at the very first sentence. This sentence is completely intact and serves as our foundation. It introduces the main topic and sets the direction for the entire paragraph. Listen carefully for clues about the time period and the central subject being discussed. The invention of the printing press dramatically changed the way information was shared across Europe in the 15th century for many societies. In this opening sentence, we are introduced to the primary subject, which is the printing press. The author uses the phrase dramatically changed to emphasize that this was a massive shift in history. By mentioning that information was shared across Europe, we get a clear idea of the scope of this transformation. Understanding that this is about a technological revolution in communication will help us predict the words in the coming sentences, as they will likely describe life before and after this great invention. Now, we are going to strategically skip the next two sentences for just a moment. These sentences contain the missing letters we need to solve. By skipping ahead to the complete sentences at the end, we can build a much stronger understanding of the paragraph's logic and results. This bird's-eye view makes it much easier to come back and fill in the gaps with total confidence. Let's move on to the fourth sentence. This part of the text provides specific details about how the printing process worked and what its immediate effects were. Even though there are no blanks here, pay close attention to the cause and effect relationship described, as it supports the overall message of the paragraph. Printers could produce texts more quickly and reduce costs, which encouraged education, literacy, and public debate. This sentence acts as a bridge by explaining why the printing press was so effective. The phrase, reduce costs, explains the economic benefit, while the mention that it encouraged education shows the social impact. Finally, it highlights public debate, suggesting that people were now able to discuss and share their own thoughts more freely. These details confirm that the passage is focusing on the transition from a limited flow of information to a much more open and accessible one. Finally, we reach the concluding sentence. This sentence summarizes the long-term global impact of the printing press. It's the finishing touch that helps us confirm we have understood the passage correctly before we go back to solve the missing letter challenges. Over time, printed materials supported scientific study, religious discussion, political reform movements, and cultural growth globally. As a conclusion, this sentence highlights the lasting power of printed materials. It lists diverse areas like religious discussion and reform, showing that the press affected every part of life. The phrase, cultural growth globally, signals the final emphasis on how this invention reached far beyond just one region. Now that we have the full picture of how printing changed the world, we are perfectly prepared to go back and solve the blanks in the earlier sentences. Now that we understand the context of the printing press, let's look at the first part of the second sentence and identify the missing letters based on our reading. Focus on the word following the word this. Before this chain, the question provides the letters C, H, and A, followed by three blanks. In the previous sentence, we learned how the printing press dramatically transformed society. In this sentence, we see the phrase before this, which is looking for a noun to describe that transformation. Considering the available information and the context of a major transition, the word that fits perfectly to describe this transformation is change. This links the invention of the press to the previous state of affairs. Continuing with the same sentence, we are now looking at the quantifier that describes the volume of books produced by hand. Think about the frequency or quantity being expressed here. Before this change, mo. The question provides the letters M and O, followed by two blanks. Looking at the given parts, we need a word that describes the quantity of the objects being discussed. Since the sentence is describing a general situation in the past where handmade items were the standard, we need a word that means nearly all. Based on what is provided, the word is and most, which correctly quantifies the books being mentioned. Now we need to identify the objects themselves. We know the topic is about the printing press, so think about what was being made by hand before the press existed. Before this change, most boo were made. The question provides the letters B and O, followed by 3 blanks. This word is the subject of our sentence. We are talking about the items that were made by hand and later printed by a press. Considering the available information and the plural verb were made, we need a plural noun. The most logical word that fits the context of the printing revolution is and books. In this next part, we need a short word to complete the phrase explaining how the books were created. It describes the method used by people at that time. Before this change, most books were made by hand, so the question provides the letter B and 1 blank. We are looking for a preposition that introduces the means or method of creation. In the phrase, made something hand, the most natural and grammatically correct preposition is and by. This completes the idiomatic expression, by hand, which perfectly describes the manual labor used before the printing press. Now we move to the result of books being made by hand. If books were rare and expensive to make, think about what stayed limited for most people. Before this change, most books were made by hand, so no stayed limited. The question provides the letters K, N, O, and W, followed by 5 blanks. Because books were made by hand and were hard to get, the information or understanding within them was not widely available. Looking at the given parts and the fact that it stayed limited, we need a noun representing information or learning. Based on what is provided, the correct answer is and knowledge. We are now in the third sentence, which introduces the new way of doing things. Think about a word that refers back to the new process of using a printing press. This new met allowed. The question provides the letters M, E, and T, followed by 3 blanks. The sentence refers to the printing press as a new way of sharing information. We need a noun that means a way of doing something. Considering the available information, the word that functions as a synonym for system or process in this context is and method. What exactly was allowed to move and grow because of this new method? Think about the plural noun that refers to thoughts or concepts. This new method allowed id. The question provides the letters I and D, followed by 3 blanks. We are looking for the plural subject that the printing press helped to circulate. Based on what is provided and the later mention of scientific study and religious discussion, we know we are talking about concepts or thoughts. The word is ideas. Now we have a very small but essential word that connects the noun to the action that follows. It's part of an infinitive structure. This new method allowed ideas T. The question provides the letter T and 1 blank. In English, when we use the verb allowed, followed by an object like ideas, we usually need the infinitive form of the next verb. Looking at the given parts, the only word that fits this grammatical role is to. Now we need the verb that describes how ideas move through a large population. Think about a word that means to expand or reach more people. This new method allowed ideas to spur through. The question provides the letters S, P, and R, followed by 3 blanks. We need a verb that describes the movement of ideas across Europe. Given the context of the printing press making information more accessible, we need a word that means to move or reach a wider area. Based on what is provided, the word is spread. Finally, we need to name the actual process that made this movement possible. It's the noun form of the action the press performs. This new method allowed ideas to spread through print and reach many readers. The question provides the letters P, R, I, and N, followed by 4 blanks. This word identifies the medium through which the ideas were shared. We are talking about the action of the printing press itself. Considering the available information and the context of producing texts, the word that describes this entire process is printing.